This past Tuesday, August 9th, 2022, Elden Ring received a very important update through a patch that made some adjustments to some mechanics as well as some weapons in Ashes of War. Patch 1.06 came through to shake Elden Ring's multiplayer as it introduced the much appreciated addition of being able to send summon signs as well as invade throughout the whole of the lands between, no matter what your current location may be. This will help increase activity by opening up the total pool of possible invasions and co-op signs that will be present at any single time. This is a very good thing and universally applauded. That being said, not all changes were received with such unanimous praise. As I mentioned, patch 1.06 also brought upon the game some balance changes applicable to different weapons and Ashes of War. Namely, the most notorious, both Rivers of Blood and Bloodhound Step were nerfed. Known to be some of the most powerful and overtuned tools in the game, Rivers of Blood and Bloodhound Step have divided the community into two groups. Those that want them to be powerful in order to make PvE easier for the player, and those that want them to be balanced in order to obtain a much more enjoyable PvP experience. There are arguments for both cases, and both positions are fair. That being said, I want to look beyond this debate and bring to the conversation something that I believe will help every single Tarnished, no matter what their objective is with their game or how they have fun. My dear viewer, regardless of how anyone plays the game, it is important to learn to adapt. Adaptation is key for all things in life, and that includes video games. Adaptation means to be adjusted to new conditions. It represents the ability that any living thing has to thrive in multiple different environments, capable of reaching its objective through multiple different means. Whenever the living being is subjected to a new set of circumstances, it continues to find a way of survival by using the same set of new circumstances to their full potential. There is no other choice. If the living being fails to adapt, it will perish. This exact same principle can be applied to video games in general and to Elden Ring specifically. Before patch 1.06, Rivers of Blood and Bloodhound Step were the main tools used in order to make the general PvE experience extremely easy. Rivers of Blood had an Ash of War that not only did a lot of damage, but was also very good at applying the bleed status effect multiple times. With the right set of stats and equipment, this weapon would make short work of any enemy or boss that was susceptible to bleed. Since there are only a few bosses immune to this condition, the strategy proved to be very effective. Not only that, but this value was obtained very easily. All you have to do was use its Ash of War, which will be activated by pressing a single button over and over again. There was very little thought process behind this strategy, and very little interaction with the game. Bloodhound Step, in a similar fashion, was an extremely useful defensive tool that trivialized most of the enemy's attacks. Combining a large amount of invincibility frames with a large travel distance, this tool was capable of disengaging the player from any fight, with very little risk or consequence. In regards to PvE, it made a lot of the dangers extremely inconsequential, and when it came to PvP, it created an almost impossible situation to break, allowing the player using Bloodhound Step to be able to evade and avoid almost endlessly. But now, this has all changed. Rivers of Blood deals less damage and builds much less bleed. Its effective range has also been reduced, forcing the player to get closer to their target in order to be just as efficient. On the other hand, Bloodhound Step can no longer be used continuously, as its effect will weaken the more often it is activated. Also, its value has been reduced by lowering traveling distance and applying additional conditions of efficiency tied to the player's equip load. The result is that the efficiency of these tools and their use has been changed. They are no longer as good as they were. This means that the players who use them will have to change their tactics one way or another to continue to be successful. Adaptation can be many things. For example, players can continue using these tools, but they would need to get used to their new conditions and apply their new effects differently in order to get the same results. Also, they could drop these tools altogether and find new ones that will help them reach their objective in an easier or faster manner. Regardless of their choice, now players will have to interact with the game more, learning more about its tools or its mechanics. They might also require additional practice to be effective with the tools after they had been nerfed. At the end of the day, each player would need to make an effort to be better at the game, whether that be in a tactical sense or in a sense of knowledge. This is adaptation, and its value is evident. Players will become better because they have had the need to find alternatives or because they have practiced additional execution. Their skill level will have increased. Their knowledge of the game will have increased. As a result, the adaptation to these changes have placed them in a better position to defeat the different challenges that the game places in their path. There is growth, and with growth comes power. While it is true that this adaptation was forced by the game's developers through the changes mentioned above, the lesson is all the same. Those players now have the ability to adapt further to future changes, in future games, and hopefully in all future situations. The capacity of adaptation is a great ability to have, as it will apply to all parts of our life. There are many players who were very disappointed with these nerfs. Some players were even angry. These players believe that their way of fun has been attacked because the tools that they like to use are no longer as effective as they used to be. Quite frankly, some players have taken this very personally. There are many players who believe that they need these tools to be very powerful. They believe that without them, they would not have finished the game or be in its most powerful bosses. In short, these players believe that, one way or another, they are inadequate. I want to dissipate this way of thought. This is not right. In fact, this is a fallacy, because I believe that every single person has the capacity of adapting and becoming better at the game. I understand that not everyone has the same skill level. Hell, I am not very good at the game. But I don't let that stop me, because it is not about being good right away. It is about the process of learning, the process of improving. Again, I am not very good at the game. That said, I try to pay attention to why I am not good at the game and fix these areas where I am lacking. Once I address these issues, my success is guaranteed. This is something that everyone can do. Understand the areas that you are lacking and provide a solution to these issues. Maybe you need more practice, or maybe you need more knowledge. It is okay to struggle. In fact, adaptation has a lot to do with struggling. Adaptation means turning a situation of struggle into a situation of success. And, once again, this is something that everyone can do. Please do not think that you're not good enough to make changes. Do not think that you're not good enough to learn new strategies. In short, do not think that you're inadequate. I also understand that not everyone has the same amount of time to play the game. This is actually very important. Using myself as an example, well, I no longer have the time that I did when I was a teenager. I have a family, I have a business, I have responsibilities. I am sure that many of you understand this because I am sure that you, my dear viewer, also have your own to deal with. This cuts the time that we have for video games short. We only have the amount of time that we have. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 2, and we all want to make the best of it. Again, I understand this. That being said, I find that many players use this situation as an excuse to not place any effort into learning or understanding the game that they are playing. You see, video games are not a race. They are a marathon. It does not matter how long it takes you to finish a game, as long as you do. This is very applicable to Elden Ring because Elden Ring is a very long game. It is very tempting to rely on these overpowered strategies to make the game easier and to make our progress faster, because it makes us feel that we're getting more out of the little time that we have to spend on it. This is, in part, one of the reasons why many people are against these nerfs and, as a result, against adaptation. They believe that they do not have enough time to put in the effort to get better at the game. I believe that this line of thought is wrong, simply because any time that you spend improving your skills is time well spent. Again, the excuse of short time is a catalyst to the thought that some players have that they are not good enough to improve. Once again, that they are inadequate, in this case because they are not fast enough to to learn. This mindset is really counterproductive, especially when you take into consideration that there are some players who are still taking their time through the game, at their pace, learning as much as they can. They are not the quickest, but when they finish the game, they will have a lot more knowledge because of it. Again, everyone has the capacity to learn, and everyone will learn at their own pace. Being slower or needing more time does not make you inadequate. Adaptation is the result of two concepts. First, it is the willingness to overcome any obstacle. Second, it is the knowledge that you're capable of doing it. I understand that after using Rivers of Blood or Bloodhound Step for so long, it could be intimidating to have to change your playstyle or to have to use something different. But I believe that this is just a superficial feeling that will quickly go away after you see that adapting is not that difficult at all. There are many other tools in the game that make it just as easy, whether that is other weapons, Ashes of War, or Spirit Summons. All it takes is some experimentation and the knowledge that you can do it, because everyone can. My dear viewer, you may agree with my opinion or you may disagree with it. I understand that not everyone will share my outlook of self-improvement and adaptation. That being said, I am interested in hearing your thoughts on the matter. Do not hesitate to share your point of view. All in all, I think that these changes are good for the game. Personally, I have had to adapt my PvP build after the nerfs that Glintstone Pavel received. The thing was way too good, so I understand why the changes happened. The objective is to generate a better balance that will prolong the experience that Elden Ring brings. There are so many cool things that this game allows you to do that it would be a shame to just focus on one or two of them because they are so much more powerful than everything else. I believe in adaptation. It brings progress to both the game and, more importantly, to the player. But what I believe the most in is the fact that everyone has the ability to adapt. Everyone is good enough because everyone is adequate. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope I get to see you on the next one.